Hello everyone, we are here to talk about the project management enhancements as part of Clarity 15.9.3. As part of this release, there are several PM functionalities that we have enhanced. Specifically, the ones listed are the new access right to control project creation behavior, ability to manage baselines in Modern UX, the project lock indicator in Modern UX, ability to define actions in Blueprint, blueprint-specific required fields using business rules, creating project from template is also enhanced, and the ability to edit fields in the task timeline. Why is this important? Again, customers have been working directly with the project management for certain functionalities that they've been looking for in the product. Again, using various channels such as the PM office hours and the monthly innovation calls. And these are a direct results of those interactions with the PM team. So let's talk about first the project create access right updates. What I have here is the table that tries to describe what is the specific behavior that used to be there in 15.9.2 and prior, and what you can now expect to see regarding the project creation access right starting 15.9.3 and higher. For in 15.9.2 and older, the project create from template was an access right that was available. The same access right with the same name is also available in 15.9.3, so there's really no change. That specific access right allows the users in Modern UX to use the New from Template button and convert an idea to project. And the same access right in the Classic UI allows the users to create from New Template and convert the project to idea, will show them the projects from template. So that functionality is not changed, or that access right functionality is not changed in the 15.9.3. The name remains the same, and these are the functionalities you can do. The next is the project create. So in 15.9.2 and older, we had an access right called project create. This project right is being renamed in 15.9.3 to project create and create from template. This is a name change only. This access right, when given to a user, allows the user in Modern UX to create a new project using New from Template, use the plus button in the project grid, insert row below in the project grid, use the New card button in the project board view, and convert an idea to project. The same access right in the Classic allows the user to create a new project using the New button, create a new project using the New from Template, convert idea to project will show them the investment type of project from template and project. We are also now introducing a new access right, which will be called project create. This is a new access right starting 15.9.3 onwards. When granted to the user, will give the user access to create a new project in Modern UX using the plus button in the project grid. They can also create a new project using the insert row below and using the new card button in the project board view. This access right in the Classic UI allows the user to create a new project using the new button. Converting idea to project will show them the investment type of project only. This is a new access right, and after upgrade, all the existing customers will have their access rights pretty much displayed as either project create from template or project create and create from template. There is no change to the functionality to the end users. Um, this is after the upgrade. Whatever they were able to do prior to the upgrade, they will continue to be able to do all of that after the upgrade. However, moving forward, this gives a lot more control to the administrators to be able to control how should the end users be able to create a project. If a certain organization does not want their users to create projects using either the plus button or insert new row, thus bypassing all the business rules because there is no blueprint assigned to it, or bypassing any blueprint required attributes, all they have to do is give them project create from template, and now the users can only create project using the new template button. So this gives more control to our customers to be able to define how their end users should be able to create and what rules should be executed. We are now also making baselines available in modern UX. Baselines are available where the admins can include it as a module using the blueprint. Once added to the blueprint, all baselines defined in Classic UI will automatically appear, whatever was created in Classic. And users can perform the following actions in the modern UX. They can view previously created baselines, configure the baseline layout similar to any other common grid, so they can see any of those attributes for the baseline, be able to drag and drop or save it in different views. Users can create new baselines using either the plus button or insert a new row. Users can update existing baselines, delete a baseline, or mark a baseline as current. The access to perform any of this functionality is directly controlled by existing access rights. There is no change to any access rights. And once the appropriate access rights are given, the end users will be able to perform these functions in the modern UX, similar to what they can do in the classic UI. We now have the ability to display a lock icon in a project properties page when a specific project is locked by a specific user. A project could be locked when they are being edited in one of the third-party applications such as MSP or Open Workbench, or if a project is locked because it is being edited in the PPM Gantt view. We have the lock icon displayed in the properties page, and we also have a new attribute that a user can include in their project grid layout called lock by. This allows the users to see when a project is locked and who specifically locked it. We are now introducing the actions in Blueprint. This functionality, while being discussed within the project management, is available in other parts of the applications. The actions in Blueprint is available in projects, ideas, custom objects, roadmaps, and custom investment types. The actions in Blueprint allows the administrator to now provide their end users the ability to invoke processes for that specific object instance. To make that process available under actions, the process has to be active. The process has to be either linked to that specific object to which this is being included, or the process should be not associated with any object, and the processes should be enabled for available for on-demand start. Once those conditions are met, the processes can then be included in the actions within the blueprint of that object. To kind of go through the flow of how the actions in the blueprint would be configured, once you have a process created, in the object definitions of that, you want to make sure that the available for on demand is set to yes. Then within the blueprint of your object, there is a new tab called Actions. When you go into an edit mode of your project, you will then see the Add Process button available to you. Clicking on that will give you a list of all the processes that are available to be added. These are the processes that are either not tied to any object or are tied to the specific object for which the blueprint is being defined. Once the process is selected, the process is then listed under the Actions tab, and it's a common grid where you can then control and view the different layouts. Some of the common layouts would be the process name that you would want to see. What is the original process name? And you have the option to rename what that process should be displayed as to the end user when they go into the actions within the properties. So whatever was the process name does not need to be the same as your actions name within your blueprint. You have the option to change that or relabel that. You also have the option to control the order. So by default, as the processes are included, they're ordered 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can change the order number by easily changing the order value under the order column. You also have the option to enable or disable, so you can define multiple processes and you can then easily enable or disable those processes that are included in your actions. Once the actions have been defined in the project, they are available within the properties page of your object. There is a new drop-down that is made available under the properties page called Actions, and your processes that you have selected are displayed within those actions. Once the user clicks on it, the process will then automatically be either started, or if the user does not have an access right to start the process, then they will be displayed an error message that you do not have the right to start the processes. Blueprint required attributes. We have the ability to set up required attributes per blueprints. Required attributes can only be set when the condition is set to true. Can require any number of attributes. Required attributes are enforced in the create modal properties, flyout, and the grid layout. Blueprint required attributes are automatically added to the create modal if there is no default value for it, and the blueprint required attributes will have an error displayed if the user tries to null it out anywhere in the grid, flyout, or properties page. We are also changing the subtle behavior in regards to how the projects can be created using template. We are in the old release, you could see the button called new project when in the tiles, and you would see new from template if you were in the grid layout. Starting 15.9.3, we are matching it so that you will always see new from template, whether you are in the tiles or in the grid layout. When the user clicks on the new from project template, we are replacing the old carousel display with a common grid that allows you to see the project name as well as any other fields that would be relevant to you to determine which template to be used. This grid layout will only show you the templates that are available to you, and you can configure the layout and have saved views that are specific for selected template. This view will not use the project defined views. Creating a project using the template, the flow is similar to how it was before, where the end user can click on the new from template. The minute they click on it, a modal pops up that displays the common grid with the project templates available. The user can select any one of the template. They can configure to see any additional data points. They also have the option to see the details. The project is non-editable in this grid, so the user cannot make any changes to the template. And the next button is only displayed once at least one or once the project template is selected. So as soon as the project template is selected, the next button becomes enabled. You can click on that, and the next screen will then display the new project model as defined in the blueprint that was used for that project template. If there is no blueprint, then it'll use the default blueprint for that template. Converting the idea to project, again, very similar behavior, which is once you go into an idea, you do a right mouse click to convert the project. Instead of the template carousel, you will now see the template grid layout. Same behavior, you can select one of the template. As soon as you select on that, click on next. You will then see the create modal along with the three options that are available when converting an idea to project, which is the copy team, copy financials, and copy risk issues and changes. Once all the required values are populated, then the create button will become enabled. We now have the capability to edit the task data in the task timeline view. The users can edit any data except TSV in this view, and we support relative date shifting functionality that is introduced in 15.9.3 also in the task timeline view. Attributes in the grid will be colored based on the definition in the attribute display mapping in the studio, and the view TSV total based on the grand and sum periods total. So with that, let's jump in and see the product in action. So here I am in Clarity 15.9.3. I'm going to go into the classic UI first to show you under administration the access rights, the access right changes. So within here, to see the access rights, let's go into the administration license information. I'm going to search for the project create access rights so we can see the new and the renamed access rights. So here is the project create. This allows the user to create a project using the plus button. Here is the renamed existing process. This used to be project create, but now it is renamed to project create and create from template. This allows the user to create the project in pretty much every way possible. You can create using the plus buttons or using the template. And then the another existing right, which is the project create from template. This is as it was in the previous releases, 15.9, 2 and below. This is the same that's going to continue to work in 15.9, 3 and above. To show the difference, I'm going to now log in as different users in the system. As I log in the different users, I will not show you the different access rights for that user, but I will explain to you what access should that user expect to see based on the access rights assigned. So I have 3 users. Each user has only one of these 3 rights assigned to them. So let's first log in as Aaron. Aaron is being granted the access right of project create only. Project Create allows the user to only create using the plus button or the insert new row or the new button in the board view. So when I log in as Erin, the first thing you'll notice, I do not have an option to create from template in the tiles, nor do I have option to create from template in the grid layout. However, I do have the option to create a new row, or I can do a right mouse and insert new. Same thing if I go to the board view, I have the option to create the new card. So the project create, which is the new write, gives me access to only create using this new way. I'm going to now log out and log in as Alicia. Alicia is being granted the right to create project using project create and create from template. So essentially, Alicia has right to create project in any way possible. So the first thing you would notice, I have new from template in the project tiles page. When I go to the project grid, I have the new from template, as well as I have the plus to create a new row, or the right mouse and insert new row. And lastly, if I go to the board, I have the option to create the new. If I go into the idea, I can also convert an idea. I can convert the idea, and I have the option to see the convert, pick the project template and proceed with the conversion. And last, I'm going to log in as Nick. Nick has been granted the right to only create from template. So in that case, when I log in, I can see the new from template button under project tiles. I see the new from template button in the project grid layout, but I do not see the plus button. I cannot do right mouse insert new. If I go to the board view, I do not have the ability to click on the new button here either. If I go to the ideas, I have the option to convert to project because it is create from template, and I can then pick the project template and proceed forward if I wanted to. Next, we are going to look at the baseline functionality in Modern UX. For that, I'm going to go into the Modern UX. I'm going to go inside the project grid layout. And actually, prior to that, I'm going to show you within the blueprint of my projects, I have the option to pull in baselines. If I go into the modules, let's go into the edit view. If I go into the modules, you can see I have now baselines available that I can drag. In my case, I have already included baseline as a module to my project default blueprint. If I go in to the project grid layout and I go into the email SAN storage as my project that has the same blueprint assigned to it, I can see the baseline module available to me. Clicking on that, I can now see all the baselines that have been created. This is the same baseline that is available to me in the classic UI. So it's exactly the same data that was all the previously created baselines are now available to me here in the Modern UX. I can see it's on a common grid. I can include any different attributes that I want to see in my layout. I have the option to either create a new baseline, update an existing baseline, or mark a specific baseline as current. To create a new baseline, I can also use the add row. So let's go ahead and do that. Once the baseline has been created, all the data set up, I can go ahead and mark this one as current. Once that is done, you can see the current flag is set to our newly created one. If I did not want to use this new baseline, I could just go ahead and right mouse and delete that baseline. And in doing so, the most recently created one then becomes the current one automatically. Next, let's look at the project lock icon when the specific project is locked using any of the external application. To do that, I'm going to go into tasks and I'm going to start editing this using the ppm Gantt. And in my case, let's assign another PM to a specific task. So let's go ahead and open up the planning phase. And I have Paul Burks assigned right here. But let's say I want this to be done by Paul Burks and Martin. The minute the user is populated, the project automatically gets locked because now I am in an unsaved mode and we don't want anybody else modifying the project from going directly into the application. So while this is still in an unsaved mode, I'm going to go back into my modern UX. I'm going to go back out. In fact, just navigating around, the lock icon would have appeared. I'm going to go back to my project and you see now we have the locked icon that tells me that the project is locked, and hovering over it tells me that it is locked by the specific user. The same thing I can also see in my grid layout by adding the new column, which is locked by. By adding this new column, any project that is locked, then their person that has locked it, their name will appear right there. In this case, I can see it is locked by me. Let's go ahead and just proceed with saving this, and the lock icon will then go ahead and disappear. So let's just refresh this, and you would see that the locked by is all empty. And when I go inside the same project, the locked by icon will then disappear. Next, let's look at the actions in blueprints. Again, like I'd mentioned earlier, actions is a functionality available across different objects. In this case, we will cover it primarily under the project management only. So coming back into my project blueprint, I have the new tab available to me called Actions. When I go into Actions, I can see by default, sorry, not by default, but in my setup, I have 3 actions or processes in this case predefined. I can add more process by clicking on the Add Process button. This button is only available once I am in the edit mode of my blueprint. Clicking on the button gives me the list of other processes that are available to me that I can include in my blueprint. So in my case, I am going to select the starting of the stage gate process. I can see that this is tied to my object, whereas there are 2 other processes that are not tied to any object are also available to me to include in my action list. Once I've selected that, I'm going to click on Add, and that newly included process is now listed right here. By default, the name that the user will see is exactly the same as the actual process name. However, if I want my end users to see this by a different name, I can do so by just double clicking and then editing this. In my case, I'm going to call this invoking stage gate process. And I'm going to make this as the first order that the users will see. So I'm going to change all the other ones down. Anybody paying attention could have easily told me that why don't I use the drag and drop to populate the values with auto sequencing? And you're right, I could have done that. Now I have defined the actions within the project blueprints. I can go ahead and publish this. I am also going to go in to my roadmap. And in roadmap, as you can see, I also have the actions. I am not going to make any change, but only see that I have defined only one process that that can be executed by the end user. So in this roadmap blueprint, there is only one process to be invoked. Now let's go look at this in action. We are going to go back into the Modern UX project. So I have my project email. Under the Properties tab, I now have a new menu dropdown called Actions. I do want to make sure I refresh so that I can see the newly created ones. Under Properties, I should now see my newly published one as well as the order. So I included the invoking of StageGate. I listed that as the very first one. So now that is listed here as first option I can kick off, and it is called invoking, which is the rename that I gave it. And the other ones are listed at the bottom. Invoking, it is as simple as just selecting and the process gets invoked and a message is displayed to the user if we were successful. If the system was successful in invoking the process, then a success message is displayed. In my case, I do have a blueprint defined to processes. So now I'm going into a blueprint and there I can see that the process was invoked. So the stage gate process just got invoked and it is waiting at the level 1 approval. So processes that get invoked is then can be seen using channels. I am going to go into roadmaps. And if you remember in our default roadmap, I had only one process. So in here, I'm going to go into my FY 2021 annual planning roadmap. I'm going to go into the properties, which is using that blueprint. And notice that instead of having an action drop down, I just have a button. And this button is exactly the same as my action that I had defined in my blueprint. So the point here is that if you define only a single action, then we do not make our end users make two clicks, one click for actions and then the second click to run the action. You can just basically directly click on it to start the process itself. So if you have a single action, you will only see the button. Next, let's talk about the create from template updates. So I'm going to go into the project grid. And here you would see that we have the new from template button. And this is exactly the same that when I go to my project tiles is the same button. Clicking on this gives me the grid view of all my project templates. So this is the replacement of the carousels to a grid view. It is just like any other common grid view where all the attributes that I am interested in can be pulled in to see, including the blueprints. I can save my views as well as manage them. And notice that the next is not available till I select one of the templates. None of the fields in here is editable, so I can double click anywhere to try to edit it or open it in a details and all of it is read-only data to me. Once I select it, I see the next button is enabled, and I am going to now, I can click on next and proceed with the project creation. Let's go ahead and cancel out of that. Next, let's look at the blueprint required. In order to have a blueprint required, I'm going to go to my project blueprint, because blueprint required attributes is project specific only. I can go into my rules, and I have a blueprint required rule specified called strategic sponsored required. When I look at it, the condition is set to always true. When setting that condition, I can see the required attributes action available to me, and then I can select one or multiple attributes that I want to be blueprint required. If I now go into the project create and I create from template, and I select the template that is using the same blueprint, and in my example, the major project template is using the project default. When I click on that, the strategic sponsor is automatically included to be populated because it is blueprint required value. Next, let's look at the task timeline editing that is available to us starting 15.9.3. So in this case, I am going to go into the emails and storage project. When I go into the task module and go into my timeline, now I have the option to edit any data in my task timeline. I can double click and change the task name. I can change the date of a task. So in this case, I can either change it by just picking the value, or I can use the shift by 5 days and it'll move by 5 days. So the relative date shifting is available to me. I can also edit rich text fields if I wanted to specify that now this project is restarted. I can populate that data from right here, and the value is displayed to me. I can even complete some of these tasks from right here, saying that this is started, the old one is completed. So I can edit any field from my task timeline. This is new in 15.9.3. Right? That concludes the section in regards to the changes to the project management.